Hello everybody, Jake, your resident content cowboy here. Yeehaw, we have a brand new patch, the anniversary patch, or as the fine folks at Pokemon Unite have called it, the Shadow Flame balance patch has landed in Eos Island, and now I'm going to talk to you about all of the winners and the losers from this recent patch. I've been playing it a little too much since it dropped here, and I have a pretty good idea of what's crushing it, what actually didn't get changed that much, what got maybe more of a nerf than I think it probably deserved, and everything in between. So let's get into it. I'm just going to start right off the bat with a huge winner, and maybe the winner of the entire patch. I'll kind of talk about a few of the winners of the patch, but I have to talk about Charizard. Charizard for the longest time has been on the outside looking in for competitive play, ranked play. It's always been a decent Pokemon. It's one of the starters that you've been able to get since the game's inception, and it's never really been a super viable pick in anything. It's always been okay. You can carry with it. It is a carry Pokemon, but it's never really had its moment in the sun. Well, the anniversary is its moment in the sun. The biggest change here is not Fire Punch and not Flare Blitz, even though I think the Flare Blitz buff is awesome. I love Flare Blitz right now. I think the biggest change, and I'm sure you would agree, is the Unite move change for Charizard. Now you no longer have to worry about your Unite move getting canceled. This doesn't just make your Unite move a little better. I would say this makes Charizard like many times better. There are so many games and so many moments that your Unite move would have gotten canceled where you could not participate in some of the ending fights. We've all had it. If you've played a lot of Charizard, we've all had those moments where you're in the ending fight, you're looking for your moment, you dive in and you're going to grab somebody, you accidentally grab the Machamp who is currently dynamic punching. Boop. Your Unite move is canceled. You have to wait a few seconds here. It's just enough time. You no longer have any mobility and you're taken out. It's so frustrating, and I am so happy they changed this. Now, there could be a question after this change if there are other things that need to be done to Charizard, like a nerf to maybe bring it back down to earth a little bit. We're going to have to see how that plays out. Right now, I don't think we're in that territory yet, but I will say Charizard is doing so much better. I could see it fully being competitively viable. One of the biggest reasons being Charizard's Unite move can cancel Cramorant's Unite. Well, can pick up Cramorant's Unite, can pick up Slowbro Unite, can pick up Mimikyu Unite. Like, it is now able to shut down a Slowbro Unite move as a Charizard. It went from being cancelable to stopping Slow Beam. Without question, one of the biggest winners of the patch, for sure. Let's talk about a patch loser here. A weird loser, as I said on stream earlier. There are some weird losers out there in this patch, and here's a weird loser: birds. I don't know what it is about birds, but Timmy does not like birds. Well, Dodrio, for whatever reason, got a nerf. You know how Dodrio was the whole thing that was ruining the game, and they just had to nerf it one more time. Sure, why not? Nerf Tri-Attack on Dodrio. Thanks a lot. Hey, while you're at it, a patch is out. Have you thought about nerfing Cram? They did! Cramorant, another loser of this patch. A Pokemon that was doing very well, I agree, but I don't think was so unbelievably good that it couldn't hang out with its Unite move being that good for a little while longer. But Timmy hates birds. Dodrio and Cramorant both getting nerfs. Couple of losers. Weird losers. Now let me immediately invalidate my point about Timmy hating birds with bringing up the fact that Talonflame somehow got a buff out of nowhere. Its passive and Flame Charge got a buff. These buffs are cooler than they are like game breaking in any way, but I do think it's a big win for Talon, who I can't believe they gave any love to at all. I have to say, I've been talking about this a bit on some of my videos that I'm working on from this patch. I'm kind of shocked that so many Pokemon got little passive changes. It's not like a huge swath of the roster, but I just made a tier list talking about old passives and how some of these things are outdated, and I would love to see more of this. I would love to see them go, hey, we need to change Talonflame's passive and Gengar's passive and Machamp's passive. Well, they did it here with Talon. It gets more move speed when it's over 85% health than it did before, from 10% to 15%, and Flame Charge got a buff. A nice patch winner. Let's talk about another bird that's a definite winner in this patch. Ho-Oh. Why is Ho-Oh such a winner? Well, because somehow a loser, we're going to talk about a loser right now, are EX Pokemon. Except for, let's get into it. Mewtwo X, Mewtwo Y, and Miraidon all got nerfs this patch, while Ho-Oh will be coming out very soon. It's going to make Ho-Oh a bit of a winner, and the rest of the EX Pokemon all kind of losers, except for one, a secret one that's been hiding in the shadows. Zacian. Zacian didn't get touched at all, while Mewtwo, X, Y, and Miraidon all got some nerfs. It's going to be very interesting to see what happens as we head into the next season. Draft is at Master Rank 1200, but you can have 4 EX Pokemon, I believe, on a single team. So depending on how things are banned out, you could see some wild-looking enemy team compositions. And I say enemy because there's no way that your allies are going to end up picking all those EX Pokemon. They're going to pick Zeraora, and they're just not going to show up to things. I'm so sorry that's going to happen to you and me. Fire Pokemon are huge winners in this patch in general. Let's start talking about a few of them right now. Chandelure. Shandy got 3 buffs. It got a buff to Flamethrower, Imprison, and its Unite move. Really nice stuff, trying to bring this mage more into the fold of being possibly a top tier pick. The cooldown on Flamethrower was nice, but it was kind of nice before. I don't think this is the craziest buff we've ever seen, but I also think it's a nice change. When you're a mage who relies entirely on casting out your spells, basically, you know, your special attack moves and doing damage from range, being able to do that more often is really nice. Another Pokemon that does this is Pikachu. These buffs are pretty minor when you look at them on paper. We're talking about a half second on both Pikachu's Thunder and Thunderbolt. However, any change where you have no other system in the game regulating move usage is pretty beneficial, right? We have no mana system. There's no additional like charge gauge that you need to get, you know, full so you can use your moves. You just simply have your moves on a cooldown. So any cooldown is essentially like a DPS buff, right? Which is pretty nice for Pikachu. I've always liked Mage Pikachu ever since it got buffed around the Mewtwo Y era. I think it's been doing pretty well, and this makes that even better. Let's talk about one that's not really a winner or a loser. I mean, it's kind of a loser, but it's a little bit of a, and that's going to be Phalanx. Not for the reasons that you might think, because there's a weird Phalanx bug going on right now that hopefully will be fixed pretty soon, but because the Phalanx nerf was pretty minor, I would say. I don't think that means it's not going to affect its win rate. When you take something that's overpowered, like the burst of that move was busted, when you take that away and make it not so busted, you will see a drop in its win rate. But after playing it, I don't think Phalanx is terrible at all. They didn't gut it. They have just toned down something about it that was considerably OP, and now it is a Pokemon that I think is still really, really great. I think, yes, it's a loser because it got a little bit of a buff, but I don't think it's a huge loser in this patch. It's kind of like a middle of the road for me. I want to talk about a big winner right now, and that's Urshifu. Yes, Dark Bear got a buff to Throat Chop, which is all fine and good, but this patch was really, if there was any way to revive Water Bear, they were going to try to do it, and they did it with this patch. The cooldown that you were able to get on Surging Strikes now lets you combo in a fight essentially like you were used to. It's still a little different. If I'm remembering right, you used to combo a little more aggressively before all the changes, but you're basically getting your Surging Strikes back if you're hitting your Surging Strike into a boosted, Surging boosted, and Liquidation got a buff, so it actually does a little more damage. Urshifu is so back. It might even be as back as before. We're just going to have to see. But Urshifu, huge winner in this patch, and it really needed it. It was looking so sad out there. Here's an interesting one. A supporter, Clefable. Clefable getting Draining Kiss buffs. This build's cheesy as heck. I think it's so fun. It's not the build. It's just super cheesy. But Moonlight getting healing buffs is excellent. It's going to give it the ability to possibly see some competitive play once again and be a really, really solid healer for the team. Played a few rounds with Clefable, and I can tell you that Clefable is doing great. It's always been a really nice healer for team-wide heals. Obviously, it's the only Pokemon that can really fill that role right now, but with increased healing, it's going to do that even better. Hey, here's a patch winner that makes all of us losers. Delphox, why did you buff Fire Spin? Why'd you do that? What are you thinking? Why are you buffing Fire Spin? Fire Spin is so disgusting. Delphox is so good and so annoying and so frustrating to play against. they buffed the no fun button. They were like, do people hate this? And they said everyone but one, the one person throwing it, and they said, okay, let's go ahead and buff this. I'm shocked that Delphox got the buffs. It definitely didn't need them. A big patch winner, even though, again, small buffs. These are small cooldown buffs. Let's talk about another loser, and let's talk about losers kind of in the same category. I brought up Dodrio a little bit earlier, and I also talked a little bit about Talon. In general, speedsters actually got hurt this patch with Meowscarada, Dodrio, and we have Zoroark all getting some changes. Meowscarada's feels the most reasonable to me because Meowscarada's passive is kind of broken. Zoroark's, on the other hand, felt like a passive that was really, really cool and offered exciting outplay potential. If I saw a nerf for Zoroark, I would actually want it to be in a different part of its kit. It feels like we nerfed the skill expression part of Zoroark rather than maybe nerfing some of the absurd damage that this thing can do in some ways. I understand where they were coming from with the illusion nerf, but at the same time, it feels like maybe that wasn't the right part of it to change, if that makes sense. I would have liked to see the high skill players still be rewarded for playing that. Now illusion just feels like not as good at all. Here are a couple of head scratchers, Sylveon and Gyarados. So Gyarados kind of got a buff. In fact, it's not kind of. Gyarados got a buff to Dragon Breath, where now Dragon Breath can activate on objective Pokemon. Things like Regieleki and, you know, the bot Regis and stuff like that, which is really cool. It means you can get some attack speed against these objectives, actually, and you're not just the slowest thing ever fighting them. I think this is a cool change for Gyarados, and I also think maybe they could mess with Gary a little bit more just so we see its other moves somewhat often. However, they kind of gave Aqua Tail and Waterfall multiple passes by now. If people are not interested in them, it's going to be a while, I think, before they touch them again. And then we have Sylveon. Sylveon got nerfed, and it deserved its nerfs entirely. I don't think this is going to change the fact that it is still a very incredible meta pick. We're just going to have to see. They just sort of shaved off the edges of a very, very OP Pokemon. Some final winners of the patch, defenders and supports, because this patch was really not aiming for them at all with any of their nerfs. And if anything, you know, you have someone like Clefable getting a buff, so defenders are doing great right now, even with another one on the way, being Ho-Oh. Defenders and supports having a pretty dang good patch. And finally, I want to talk about a massive winner, that is Ceruledge, a Pokemon that the community didn't seem to find a lot of luck with in their games, never climbed over a 50% win rate since its release, and now it has gotten a slew of buffs across the board. Everything basically besides its Unite move is getting a buff. These are going to be really nice changes for Ceruledge. At first, I wasn't sure about Bitterblade, and then I started playing it more and more. Like, the healing is actually nuts. I'm still a Psycho Cut believer. That also got buffed. Like, every part of its kit got buffed. So without question, I would say when I look at this patch, there are three big winners. It's Urshifu finally being viable again, Ceruledge, like, getting maybe a little too much love to give it some victories, and then we have Char coming back into the meta and finally being a thing in the game, possibly something competitive. For me, I think Charizard's probably the biggest winner of this patch, but I wouldn't argue with you if you said it's Ceruledge or Urshifu. I think these are all huge winners. And if we're looking at the biggest loser of the patch, well, the biggest loser of this patch. That's a great question, Jake. Give me a moment.
A few moments later.
Shedinjadal. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. Let me know what you think in the comments. Who's the biggest winner? Who is the biggest loser? I will see you all next time. Love you. We did it. Nerf. Ho-oh.